one time when Deloitte broke not one, but two unemployment systems in some of the biggest states in the United States, totaling over $100 million, yet they still seem to get hundreds of millions in government IT contracts? That's weird. So they fumble $70 million plus for, the Florida Connect system. And then California's like, you know what? Love that. Why don't we pay you $100 million for you to do the same thing for us? So we got Florida's jalopy over here, not my words, the governor's, okay? They can't stay online. And then California's disaster of a modernization that manages to lock up over 300,000 of people's checks with the same consulting logo on both botched invoices. But for sure, let's keep giving them taxpayer money. Because it's not the government that feels this pain, it's the people that can't pay their rent. Florida blames the design, California blames the volume, Deloitte blames both the legacy systems, real original, but from the worker side, that doesn't matter. The system that decides if you eat or not is just sitting there spinning errors. So what happened? Roll it back to 2011, Florida hires Deloitte for about $60 million to build Connect, which is their unemployment portal, even though other states had already reported a lot of issues with these types of Deloitte projects. Fast forward to 2013, I know you're shocked, but now our initial 60 million is now 78 million, right? And it goes live in October of 13, and it's just a hot disaster. Immediately, thousands of people can't file claims or get paid. In the state of Florida, whatever you think about them, they were like, absolutely the hell not, and started fining Deloitte $15,000 a day while withholding millions because the system didn't work. The external auditors are brought in. They're like, hey guys, this is an absolutely terrible design. It's got defects everywhere. The user experience and architecture is absolute garbage. But the system somehow stayed in production anyway. I assume it was one of those things where it's like, we'll get to it. Well, unfortunately, the world made that choice for them. And in 2020, COVID hit. All of a sudden, our $80 million website becomes the main bottleneck. People spend hours re-entering data for housing only to be kicked off. The call centers are an absolute meltdown, and benefits are vanishing into the abyss. Ron DeSantis, whatever you think about him, the Florida governor, he is like, was this site built to discourage people from trying to access their claims, essentially accusing the system of intentionally holding people hostage? Somehow, in the middle of all of this 2020 meltdown, Florida awards Deloitte a new $135 million IT contract while downplaying Connect's complete dumpster fire when recommending them. And this happens all the time in the public sector and the private sector when we look at these relationships that people have with incumbent vendors, even when they do a bad job. In 2021, the Inspector General finds that the system was never effectively tested, especially stress tested, and that there were defects and problems with it from launch. And the Deloitte executives were like, you got what you paid for. Oh, and by the way, we haven't touched the system since 2015. There was a lot of lawsuits around this because people lost homes, cars, and savings while Deloitte sat here and was like, whose fault is the code, right? These are real people that are losing their livelihood. And I don't know if like California had some FOMO and wanted to waste its own millions of dollars, but they then hired Deloitte amongst these sterling recommendations and all of this bad press to modernize their unemployment system. And to be fair, this was kind of around the same timeline, so maybe they really truly didn't know how bad it was. But around 2010, 2013, they bring in Deloitte to help them with this modernization effort. And the cost for these upgrades jump almost 100%, true Deloitte business model, from 58 million to over 100 million, 110 million dollars. And so what happened is there were all of these internal warnings, these whistleblowers before go live saying like, this is a bad system. Please don't do this. But the state pushes it live, and it goes live on Labor Day here in the States in 2013. As a surprise to absolutely no one, it doesn't go well. Okay, so over 300,000 people didn't get paid for their unemployment. They also had to wait weeks for checks, and the call center was just absolutely overwhelmed with all of these issues. In these hearings, the state of California admits like, hey, we didn't say we were perfect, but Deloitte was our expert in here, and they absolutely contributed to this. While Deloitte over here, always the golden child, saying everything is fine. This was just a data conversion issue. It's a pretty big data conversion issue. Again, the same story. At the same exact time, Deloitte was having separate issues with the state of California for an $86 million disability insurance upgrade, right? And so this system broke as well, and it delayed payments for thousands of disabled Californians for up to 6 months. Make it make sense. How? 2020 comes rolling on, and we find that it actually wasn't a data conversion issue. The system is just bad. and it crashes again. The state ends up losing billions in fraud unemployment claims, even though it was paying Deloitte for anti-fraud tools. And if, the relationship couldn't get more toxic, despite all of these failures, California still continues to modernize with Deloitte up in that mix, that now their contracts are reaching over $150 million. At some point, we have to stop pretending that this is just the normal way we do business and start naming it. It's a choice to work with these people. It is a choice to keep writing 9-figure checks to firms that are putting our people at risk of keeping a roof over their kids' heads or eating. We have to start saying no to recycled failures, no matter the big political relationship. And that really starts, I believe, at this level, about talking about these types of things. I mean, hell, I would love to know in the comments of all of you that have never heard this story before. And that is the problem. No more blank checks for broken systems.